By the time you finish watching this video, I guarantee you are going to see the market in a much simpler concept to which you are going to start profiting a lot more than you are now. Let's get started. What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Tavion, otherwise known as Bullish with T. Back with another video, guys, and in this video I'm going to be just getting right to the point. I'm going to be talking about imbalances, and the reason I'm going to be talking about this is because if you're somebody like me who trades supply and demand, support resistance, you use some sort of levels when it comes to your trading, then you're going to really find that this is actually be really beneficial. You know, those times in the market where you are marking your supply and demand zone, price doesn't necessarily reach that, so what it does instead is it retraces a little bit and continues to drop if it's going to the downside, or it traces a little bit to the downside and then skyrockets to the upside, and you're like, man, I wish I either held on to that trade longer, or man, I wish I would have gotten in. And after doing quite a bit of back testing on those moves that happened to me, I typically found that a lot of times there was a lot of imbalance that was in there. In this video, guys, you are basically going to learn how to spot imbalances, how you can utilize them in your supply and demand strategy, to which now you are a lot more covered for your entry, so you never have to miss an entry ever again. So guys, as stated, we're going to be talking about imbalances, and what you need to know about imbalances is it requires 3 candlesticks, and what you're doing is simply marking your level from the first candle, from the low, and then on the third candle from the high, to which then when you look at our second candle here, because 1, 2, 3, looking at our second candle here, you're focusing on all this space in here. And what this is basically where price was not tapped into yet. It it didn't reach this level, or it didn't come to that price area. So this is an area where you can use it actually as a level, because what's going to happen eventually, or what the market likes to do, is it likes to fill in the imbalances. So if you notice here, and this is why it's a really good example, remember when I said, you can mark a supply level, for example, something like this, right? Let's just say we mark this as our supply, and you're like me and you're waiting for the market to come back up, but it just keeps dropping and dropping and dropping. And remember that little retracement that I said from the beginning of the video, where here's our little retracement, but what happened? Price continued to drop. So again, a lot of this can come down to imbalances, and from this example that we see here, not only, yes, does it retest because it's off this level here too, but we see it actually retest not only here, but here off this level. So again, now keep in mind, similar to supply and demand, that what you could do is you could treat it as such as, well, what it will happen is price will typically fill this gap, and of course it could continue, but if price fills that gap, and let's just say it starts rejecting that area, that's a great time to get back in a sell, especially in a bearish market. But in the case where price is just simply rejecting, like it is here and here on the outside, these are also great confirmations to get in for a sell. So again, keep in mind that, just as a recap, this is the supply level here, right? And most times supply and demand, we're waiting for this level to get touched. But here we see it keeps dropping and dropping. So as a trader, you may be thinking, well, I want to get in, I want to catch that move. So this is something that I've started to look more into when it comes to imbalances, because I found that, man, why does price retrace just a little bit and then it continues to drop, or continues to skyrocket depending on the direction of the market? And again, I've noticed that imbalances are typically always in play there. And when they are, and you can mark your levels here, you can see whether or not, hey, is price going to either reject off this level and go to the downside, or is it going to fill our price area here and maybe come back to our supply area? Because again, imbalances are very, very simple and so forth. But let's go ahead and look at a few other examples, because again, this is very brief, but it's something I believe that's a great reminder as well. So here we're on NZD USD. Here's another example of an imbalance. So again, we're marking it from the top, especially since this is bullish now. We're marking it from the top of this wick here, which is our first candle. Here's our second candle. So here I already marked the zone area where price did not touch or tap into, and then we marked it based off of our low end on our third candle. So now what would I do as a trader? So now what I'm going to look for is to see if price could do several things, right? Is price going to retest off this level here, which you could say somewhat of a key level, I guess, or I'm looking for price to fill in here and potentially move to the upside. Now again, this is very, very similar to supply and demand to a certain degree, but again, I also have my overall level here that I could say that I'm looking for when it comes down to supply and or demand. But in the sake of imbalances, and what I'm looking for is when the market opens up, if you notice, not too much happens when the market opens up, because it's Asian session. Typically I call the pre-setup for the setup. But again, I'm typically looking for price to just simply do one of a few things. things: retest off this level or fill in this gap. And if it does go through our gap, guess what? I am looking for the next key level, or I should say supply and demand zone, to potentially get in for a trade. So now going off of GBP USD, we're looking at the first candlestick here. We see that the wick only went here, so we mark our lower level from that wick, and the top of the level here to the third candlestick here to this wick, which means we have all this liquidity in here that needs to be filled. So what I would look for when it comes to GBP USD is then this: if price is going to drop, is it simply going to just collect all this liquidity, start retesting off of this level, and then when it goes to the upside, I could potentially, yes, look for some buys. Or if it does want to continue, here's all my demand zone. If price does want to continue to drop, guess what? Coming back to my normal strategy, I'm either going to wait for it to retest on the outside or fill in here, give me some sort of area or confirmation that, shorter candlesticks, or some sort of confirmation that price is now going to go to the upside and take that buy. So it's very, very simple. And again, if it's just the imbalance where price is coming down, rejecting, you can get back in for that trade. So many instances where price retraces a little bit, just like it's doing now, and it will still go up. And again, it goes back to the point of saying it is more than likely due to that imbalance level. So guys, for the last example, I want to show you a completed imbalance example where price is actually filled in. So we're actually looking at GBP JPY here. So our first candlestick is here, second candlestick is here, third candlestick is here. So looking at price here, you see at one point it wasn't filled, but once price moved up here, this is where now the imbalance or the liquidity has been grabbed, it's been filled. But we see here it started to do what? It started to reject to the downside, came back in this zone area, retested perfectly off this level, came down, then retested, but on the outside of our level, which is more of a confirmation to get in for a sell, which now, if you would have gotten in on this sell here, you would have caught in a major move and made great amount of profit. And again, that's just another imbalance example. So again, it's really as simple as that when it comes to imbalances. There's nothing really too complex about it when it comes to these levels. The next thing I want to say, and the last thing I'll say too, is when it comes to imbalances that some people may be wondering is, so Tavion, do you find imbalances from every high and or low? And no, that's not how you identify. The best way to identify imbalances is simply looking at those larger candlesticks that are formed. It's as simple as that. And then look at the previous candle and the candle that happened after it to then determine, is this an area of imbalance? Because then what you're going to be able to do is have that level there to which if price does not come back to your supply, to your demand zone, you have that imbalance zone area to let you know that, hey, you know what? I don't think price is going to come all the way back up here to my supply zone. So maybe it's just going to come fill in this gap here of the imbalance and then continue to the downside, or vice versa to the upside. So hopefully this video made sense. Hopefully you guys took something away from this and learned something from this. It's really as simple as that. And I do try to keep it as simple as possible when I do break these down. If you're not using this strategy, I recommend you use this, especially if you're using supply and demand. I would highly recommend that you look for imbalance levels. So that way, in the case that, prices were tracing and coming, against your trade, now you can determine with imbalance, hey, is this something that I can actually still hold, or do I want to get out of this trade and just take the profit that I have? So with that being said, guys, that's really all I have in this video. Make sure you drop a like, leave a comment, smack that subscribe button, guys, if you're new to this channel. And until then, I will catch you all in the next one. Like I said, one video minimum a week from here on out, and I'm sticking to my word, but I'm aiming for 2 videos a week. Oh, also be sure you join the Discord. The link is below. It is completely free, guys. We're sharing trade ideas, trade alerts, having conversations, answering questions, helping you guys become the best trader you possibly can. And I would love for you to be a part of that community. But with that being said, I'll catch you all in the next video, guys. Take care.